Now, we're back to the Global Hawk. How did they do it? Remote control is how they did it. In terms of the World Trade Center anyway, I would say it's a cruise missile, it's by 77. But what they have is technology, and they've had it for a long time, as I'll show now, that can fly a plane from the ground. I was watching a BBC program, and it was about speed and technology and all that stuff. And it opened up with a 7547 jumbo jet leaving New York Airport for Heathrow. And it took off, and the pilot then took it off the runway, and then the computer took over. But as the program showed, the computer flew the plane, crossed the Atlantic, landed it, hitting the central line of the runway, and then applied the brakes. That's what the computer did. All you have to do is get control of that computer system from the ground, away you go. That's what they do with this, the unmanned Global Hawk. Wingspan of a large plane, comparatively. Now, Operation Northwoods. This shows just how far back this goes. It came to light this when a guy called James Bamford, a former producer with ABC, started writing a book about the National Security Agency. And in his research, he came up with this document about Operation Northwoods. This was an operation 40 years ago, orchestrated by the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon to bomb American targets, sink ships, down planes, and blame it on Castro's Cuba to justify an invasion of Cuba. This is 40 years ago. This is part of what Bamford says. The plan called for innocent people to be shot on American streets, for boats carrying refugees fleeing Cuba to be sunk on the high seas, for a wave of violent terrorism to be launched in Washington, D.C., Miami and elsewhere. People would be framed for bombings they did not commit. Planes would be hijacked using phony evidence. All of it would be blamed on Castro. Official document 3 years ago. My goodness, talk about history repeating. Now, what was one of the things involved in this series of manufactured terrorism? It was for an aircraft at Elgin Air Force Base to be painted and numbered as an exact duplicate for a civil registered aircraft belonging to a CIA proprietary organization in the Miami area. At a designate time, the duplicate would be substituted for the actual civil aircraft, God, losing my voice, and would be loaded with selected passengers, all boarded under carefully prepared aliases. The actual registered aircraft would be converted into a drone, controlled from the ground. Takeoff times of the drone aircraft and the actual aircraft would be scheduled to allow a rendezvous south of Florida where one would land and the drone would go on. What would then happen, the document says, is it would be sent over Cuban airspace, which is why they were going to pick a route that involved going over there. They would explode the plane by radio control and then say it had been downed by a ground-to-air missile by the Cubans. Like I say, this gang are nothing if not predictable. And who are involved with developing the remote-controlled aircraft and stuff? NORAD. That's what they did on 9/11. And what if, I'm not saying, but what if, and I'm coming more and more to this conclusion, that some of these so-called hijackers thought they were part of an exercise. And they get on a plane and, boom, they're not part of an exercise anymore. They're the fall guys. Quite possible. Or it's possible they weren't even on it. Now, black boxes, 2 in every plane. Data recorder, cockpit conversation recorder. Where the hell are they? When you read of the capacity these black boxes have for surviving incredible heat, impact, everything, there's no way they didn't survive. Why haven't we heard what they contain? Because if we see and hear it, we'll destroy the official story. We don't see and hear it. The hijackers. 19 hijackers. FBI said they hadn't got a clue that was coming. They named the bloody hijackers in next to bloody no time. Funny how 7 are still alive. At least. What did they do? Parachute? I was on one of these mainstream kind of talk shows in somewhere in America, Seattle, I think, somewhere. And I said about, 7 of the hijackers still alive, and the mainstream media have tracked them down. And he said, "What are you saying? They survived the crash?" I thought, you're a mainstream talk show host, aren't you? I feel it. No, they weren't on the bloody plane, mate. This is the official FBI timeline for Mohammed Attar and Abdulaziz Al-Amori on the morning of 9/11. Now, you have been orchestrating this for years, apparently. And so you're going to get Flight 11 from Boston Logan. What do you do the night before to make sure you get on the plane you're going to hijack? You go to Portland, Maine. You drive to Portland, Maine, and you stay overnight in a hotel. And then you come back on a commuter flight, which if you miss it, you don't get on Flight 11. And even then, the timings of landing and takeoff, any little delay, you're not going to get on it. That's what you do. Now, this is the official timeline that morning. FBI say that Al-Amori and Attar, the ringleader, checked out of their hotel on the morning of September the 11th at 5:33 to catch a plane, the only plane they can get to hit the hijacked plane, at 6 o'clock, 27 minutes before takeoff. In that time, they have to drive their hire car to the airport, park it, they have to get to departure, check-in, they have to go through security and get on the plane. Well, the alarm clock not go off, what happened, you know? Knickers and shirts, pacing, everything, get out! It's insane! And of course they left Korans everywhere, didn't they? They must have had boxes of them. I mean, what were they? The Islamic equivalent of the Gideons? Who were these people? Unbelievable. Then there's the passport. The hijacker's passport found near Ground Zero. I sat in my front room and I watched the BBC newsreader tell me that the FBI had announced that they'd found a hijacker's passport near Ground Zero, and she never laughed. Paper passport, massive fireball. I'm not a physics major, but I asked them about it, and they said, "Oh no, we can't talk about that because it's part of the investigation, the ongoing investigation. In other words, it don't exist, does it?" I said, "Okay," they said. A year after that, an ITV crew documentary on 9/11 asked the FBI about the hijacker's passport, and this is their quote. They said the hijacker's passport is a rumor that might be true. That's true. They called a news conference after 9/11, say they found it. Well, if they said they found it, they must have seen it. And now it's a rumor that might be true. Now, what is this? What is this? This is the knowledge that people do not retain detail. They forget what's been. They know that people get their sense of perception from a sort of vague image. So immediately after 9/11, they're trying to sell the Islamic hijacker story. So the passport, it's true, it is for the Islams that found the passport. Then they'll forget about it. Because what that lie has been designed to do has had its effect. Don't talk about it anymore. What about that passport? Oh, rumor, might be true. That's what they do all the time. They're about selling an image. So we have Attar and Abdulaziz Al-Amori rushing to the bloody airport, it seems. Nah. This, people say, no, they were definitely on the plane because there was that security footage. No, that was not at Boston Logan. This picture, it was at Portland, Maine. Isn't it funny? I went to Boston Logan, part of my research for the book, Of all the international airports in all the world, at a time when cameras are exploding everywhere, name me the international airport that does not have cameras in its departure lounge. Boston, Logan. Yeah. So, this is the picture we got of Alamori and the Attar. Now, what it says is 9/11/01, 5:45, 13 seconds. Well, they left their hotel at 5:33. They must have bleeded flown from there then. The plane must have been in the car park. 5:33. Oh, but then, that's what you see in the middle. When you expand it, oh, there's something else here. 5:53:41. About 6 minutes to 6, which is why the check-in people said they were sweating blood and said they were running late.